Hey, everybody. We got a special random stream today. We have special guests. We have Ember from the Better Than Ember YouTube channel. And yeah, we're going to be talking about a mutual friend of ours, Frank Turek. So how you doing, Ember?
Yes, so our good friend Frank, or
You
as
know,
Uncle Bobby puts it, fuckface Frank Turek.
there you go. That's what I call it. Most of my friends, it's a ribbing type of situation. No, God, yeah, he is.
And he's here with what's this guy's name? Brandon, I want to say. Not daily disciple, daily dose of all these dopes. I get confused, but
I,
yes.
yeah. Yeah, I know, right? And it freaks me out too. Why is he always like? Is he trying to look like a Confederate? Is that what he's doing? Is that his style?
I was getting like World War One fighter pilot vibes. Like he's got the hat's not quite right, but it's got that smushiness to it. But
Yeah.
the mustache, like all he needs is goggles and a scarf, and he's ready to hop into a sup with Camel. You know?
Oh my gosh, yeah, you're right. That's awesome. What is that style? That's fascinating. I feel like he took the like it'll come back too far thing, man. We're in the 70s still right now. You gotta wait for something like that to come back. It's gonna
Oh
take it.
boy. And
But
and
yeah,
and here's Frank wearing his safety glasses. You know, in case the hot sparks fly towards his eyes, or I don't fucking know what.
God, they are safety glasses. What is that's weird. Okay. Fascinating. Yeah, they don't have the bottom. Okay, interesting. Yeah. That's what you wear when you're like dusting or something. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, it's how you been? You been all right?
Mostly, we're doing good overall. I mean, I'm making progress quitting smoking. I haven't had a cigarette since January 2nd. I'm down to 1.8% on my vape thing. I
Nice.
know it's annoying, but it won't be around long. We're getting there. Transition stuff is progressing. I actually went out in public yesterday, and no one tried to murder me. It's a start.
That's a good start, given
Hmm.
the current state we're in,
Hmm.
I would actually, and no tomatoes or anything like that? No? No
No,
celery?
actually, I plan on talking about this a little bit on the Sunday show later before Maya's, but I discovered an interesting thing I did not expect. I didn't think ahead enough to plan for whatever. It turns out that the more female you appear, the more invisible you become. I went through Walmart and I had three people almost run into me and then say, "Oops, sorry." Like, can you not see me? I'm okay.
You were invisible a second ago. It's like a ring of power situation or something. I don't know what's happening,
Right?
but Jesus, yeah, that's funny. That almost would be nice. I almost wish that we're all the way true for and just
Yeah.
go outside and not have to worry about it. That'd be kind of nice.
Yeah,
More
that's
people.
I was talking with my youngest about it before because she never goes in the store. She's usually when I pick her up from her grandma's, she's usually in pajamas, and she's like, "No, I don't want to." I'm like, "It's a Walmart, kid. Everyone's in their pajamas," but she doesn't want, to, and that's fine. So she stays in the car, and she's like, "What are you hoping will happen? Like, what's the best case scenario here?" And I'm
Right.
like, well, honestly, my goal, it's a low bar, but my goal is that no one attacks me, no one calls me freak, anything like that. Like being ignored is like the
That's
first step goal, you know?
That's top tier. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. That's
Yeah.
much better than negative, right? That's in the neutral.
Mhm.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Yeah, because there's nothing worse than feeling unsafe just being yourself, you know? Uh,
It's fucking terrifying because I mean, I'm still very early on. I am as far from passing as I'm ever going to be, right?
right.
And yeah, like having people come at you, that's a high possibility. Especially, this is a very red area. It's like almost Florida level red, you know.
Oh, really? Oh gosh. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's
So
scary.
yeah, it was a huge anxiety, but
I
that's kind of why I did it, you know, because when you have huge anxiety, the best thing to do. It's like with blackmail. Somebody tries to blackmail you, you turn around on them and blow up their threat, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's right. Or you blackmail them back, you know. I'll tell everybody you're blackmailing me. I'll do it. Okay, I'm recording this.
I've got receipts.
Yeah. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
it makes me think of like, because I have yeah, I have like Bad Religion shirts that I wear. It's just like giant crossed out, you know, circled and crossed out. And I feel like that's like when I wear that, I feel like that's probably how like trans folks feel when they're walking around. Cause I could see people like look and be like, you know, like just getting mad, just looking at them like, but see, I can take that off. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to wear it. I don't wear it too often because of that, because I'm like, I don't want to get attacked. But you know, so I feel like trans folks can't take that off. They can't stop. You know, they have to.
Yeah, that kind of thing is you know, it's deliberately confrontational. I've done stuff like that in the past. I don't currently have any shirts like that, but you know, I get it. Like some days you just want to be like proud about your beliefs the same way other people are wearing giant fucking crosses and shit, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's when you're like trying to show it, you know, whereas being trans is kind of the opposite. You want to try to blend in to some extent. I mean, even you know, non-binary is a huge umbrella. There's people who are gender fluid, agender, everything in between, and some people aim, like my oldest, aims for a broadly androgynous look, but you do it in a way that you can like exist within society without getting murdered. You know?
Right. Yeah. It's yeah, that's got to be tough. And I've heard so many people like with the, you know, getting upset with the they thing and be like, that's not even proper language. And I'm always just like, yeah, it is actually. Like, have you ever found like somebody's glasses or whatever? Like, found a pair of glasses in your room and you don't know who, you know, they belong to, and you're just like, who, you know, whose are these? Like, does anybody know who these belong to so I can get them back to them? You know, they're talking about one person, so it's a glasses, but yeah, that drives me crazy when they try to say it's not. You know, it takes a little getting used to sometimes, but that's, you know, okay.
Yeah, everybody does it instinctively, every single person. It's only when you call their attention to it. It's such a shit argument. And this is why it's a great thing to put on with Frank Turek, because he makes the exact same level arguments. If you don't ever think about it, it sounds like it makes sense. But the instant you put one neuron of energy into it, the whole thing crumbles, you know?
Yes, exactly. And it's funny too, because like, oh, so like language, like grammar is real important to you now, huh? That was always a, you know, that was always a problem that you've had, is people like grammatically having issues, you know, like,
oh yeah, I love it when the people who don't know the difference between there, and there are telling us which pronouns we can use, you know?
Right. Half the time they don't even know what pronouns are. It's embarrassing. Jesus. That's awesome. All right. So yeah, let's take a look at, so this one's about morality. I always like his moral arguments, and I kind of wanted to get some of your thoughts on this, because I have my thoughts, but no, actually, we've just discussed it. No, Ember does not sleep, and
It's true. It's true. In fact, we're still planning to do a stream on Vlad Dracula at some point, because, like Dracula, I never sleep and thrive on the blood of the innocent.
That's right. It's all the eating the babies, you know. That's what we gotta do. We gotta a balanced baby diet, you know. All right, so let's take a look.
It's how you stay looking young.
Yeah, I hear that. You know, I hear that a lot. The adrenochrome.
Oh no! Oh no!
I'm just kidding. It was a joke. I don't, you know.
Morality is ingrained in us through evolution. It's essentially Sam Harris's argument when he debated William Lane Craig. Human flourishing. That's what is moral. We all know that we want it. But I mean, I have my own thoughts about this, but how would you respond to that idea? Why do we need God in order for there to be objective morality? Or how does the fact that there is a more objective morality point us to God? But first, is there objective morality? All these questions are, you know,
I love how nervous this guy is. He's like, oh boy, I got praise.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
he's fanboying like crazy, and he's also, I mean, I want to say he's mangling his arguments because he's excited, but let's be honest, he mangles his arguments all the time. but it's neither here nor there. No, we're going to try to explain away morality, demonstrate that it has to come from God, demonstrate it has to come from Frank and Brandon. I think it's Brandon. I'm bad with names, though.
Yeah.
His specific God, and also that more objective morality is a thing, and also that even though, since it comes from God, it's therefore subjective to that God, it's still somehow objective.
Right.
He's just a couple sentences in, and he's so confused.
Yeah. And I feel like you can also see Turek being like, "They're getting it wrong, dude. Like, this is not you're saying it back. Like, come on, can you just let me explain the arguments, buddy? Okay, you do.
Yeah. Like sit down. Let a pro handle this. You know.
Integrated into each
Let's
other.
start. Is there objective morality?
Sure.
I think we know that by intuition.
Okay.
In fact,
intuition.
Wow, that's it's a brute fact, man. That's
Yes. I mean, I'm willing to grant that there are some things that most people will intuitively agree are wrong, like, murdering Frank Turek because he's a fuckface, even though he is a horrible person who actively and aggressively does damage to our society. I still believe that murdering him would be wrong intuitively, because we don't kill other humans, period. Self-defense is a whole separate thing. Don't at me about that. But
exactly.
But where do you draw the line? There's always a gray area. There's things that are obviously we would all agree are good, and things that we would all agree are bad. But in the middle, this majority of the middle, 80%, let's say, you're going to get some disagreement. Where's the line? Do you put the line at holding the door for someone with their hands full? Is that objectively good, or is it neutral, or is it even evil because you're not promoting they're taking care of themselves kind of thing, or planning better, or whatever? Like,
it's a handout,
Yeah, like and let's look at some of the things that religion has considered moral over the ages. Like, I don't know, lynching black people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that an objective moral good, Frank? Like, where do we put the line? So you can't say it's objective and everyone agrees when you can demonstrate no society on earth has the same overall morals. Like, there's some countries where murdering gay people is not only okay, but you get awards and medals and shit for doing that. So to them, that's morally good.
Right. So it couldn't possibly that's where I'm like, I don't get what they're like. They bring up stuff that's like antithetical a lot of times to their own arguments, like bringing up stuff like that. Like, oh, that means good if it's up to society, then that would have been moral. And it's like, dude, that proves that it's not objective. Like right there, like your own argument just proves that it couldn't possibly be objective, unless it's some type of it's like ontological crap where it's some standard that nobody can know. But it's just, it's out there and it's perfect and it's outside of all our opinion, but nobody can know what it is or anything. And it's just, who gives a shit then? What's the point of that? I don't care. It's ridiculous. But,
it's intuition is just like the worst way to decide on things. Like, how do we know it's true? Well, I kind of feel it. I feel that it's true. I know I'm going to win the lotto today. I feel it.
Right. Well, and isn't he like anti trans, people being trans, isn't that like, can we say that? Like, okay, so it applies to certain things for this dude, but not others. Okay. Look at this guy, like he's like drinking and that just looks really weird. I don't know.
I mean, anybody who drinks on stream should absolutely use a straw, unless they're going to do a water bottle. Stay hydrated, friends. In which case, yeah, I can do that too, Brandon.
Right. It's just I caught him in the weirdest spot. I don't know. It's probably whiskey too, like he's like, I am so nervous right now.
Oh. Austin wrote a book 20 years ago called What We Can't Not Know. And he basically says this: when you're old enough to know what murder is and what wrong is, you know that murder is wrong. It's not innate knowledge. You weren't born knowing it, but your mind is structured in such a way based on the fact it's made in the image of God, that when you're old enough, if your mind is functioning properly, murder's wrong. Now, you could be
I
talked
have
out
a
of that.
problem with that too. You know murder's wrong because you're made in the image of God. Except, according to Frank's mythology, humans were not made knowing what is good and evil, what is right and wrong. God expressly commanded the first humans not to seek that knowledge, and they took it anyway. So you knowing right and wrong is a direct contradiction to the will of God. Ergo, morality cannot come from God because that God specifically said you're not allowed to have knowledge of morality.
Oh, wow,
So,
you're right. Because
fuck you, Frank.
yeah, isn't that their whole bag? That's like the whole thing. That's
It's the
why.
whole thing because you can't wave it away and say, "Oh, that's just an old creation myth." Because if there's no forbidden fruit and original sin, then what the fuck is Jesus for?
Right. That's why, yeah, and that's why a lot of but that's in the Old Testament kind of crumbles really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And so now he's like flipping it and because they say we're naturally evil. Like they say we should naturally just want to be killing right out the gate. Kids.
Yeah, we're born evil. That's why we need Jesus. I have a clip, but maybe I'll pull it up later. If you're born evil and you're made in the image of God, what does that tell you about your God?
That's a good point. Well, how is that then? Yeah. I mean, I guess that's why they try to make it look they were tricked into being born evil. I don't know. What? Okay. Jesus, that's a good point though. It's interesting.
Bad education or by propaganda, that kind of thing. But properly functioning mind, appropriate age, murder's wrong. Now, why would it be wrong if there was no God? It would be just your opinion. And if there's no purpose to life, as atheists say, then you can't say here's the right way to live life and the wrong way to live.
No.
Okay. Yeah. let's
Bad Frank.
There is no purpose.
Bentley, did you know there's no purpose to life? What are we even doing here?
I didn't realize that. I mean,
I didn't get the memo.
There's no cosmic purpose, but like that's so what? We can determine our own purpose, right? But and to survive, I think, just based on evolution, to survive and thrive and flourish. Like, isn't that the whole? I feel like there's still
I can't remember names. I'm so bad at it. But somebody mentioned recently. And I said something similar. It was on Sydney's stream. I mentioned the 7 generations, and Sydney remembered a previous person on the Skeptic University Week that Sydney's been doing, which is amazing content, by the way, that everybody should check out.
Absolutely.
That we should always, when we make our big decisions in life, when we consider what kind of world we want to build, we're not the main character. We're future people's ancestors. We're not here forever. We're building the world for the people who come after us. And to me, that's a whole lot of purpose. There's a lot of purpose in that.
That's an
but
excellent,
also, yeah.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder, like, what Frank's idea of purpose is. Like, every accusation is a confession. He thinks atheists say we have no purpose. We have, nothing matters, whatever, nihilism, yada, yada.
Right.
But that's just his projection that without his security blanket of a God idea, he's full of nihilism. He sees no point or purpose to anything. So to him, the only thing is sucking the dick of his imaginary friend. That's the only thing that makes life worth living. And what a sad fucking existence,
Right. Yeah, I know. I always wonder that, like, how is it that, like, if you've been if somebody has convinced you that your life is completely pointless and purposeless, unless you believe the thing over here that we want you to believe, and you can't tell that that's a manipulation tactic, then I don't know what to do with you. I got a bridge. There's a bridge down the street. It's a good deal. I'll get it for you for a couple $1,000. It's all yours, buddy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Internal critique, right? Like a Muslim comes to Frank and says the same thing. If you don't believe in Allah, then there's no purpose to your existence. Like, what do you do with that, Frank? You say, no, I believe in the correct thing, so I have purpose. You don't have purpose. You both are saying the same thing at each other. How do we tell who's correct? Or could it be neither of you?
Yeah. and that is what it is. Because yeah, that and the what like knowing who's got it right really does kind of smash that whole concept to pieces again. It's just
But Frank doesn't like to talk about that. He likes to paint this false dichotomy. It's either God belief or atheism. But the reason there's so many atheists is it isn't even that there's no reason to believe in God. That is a problem they have to deal with too. But the first hurdle they have to clear is which God, like from our perspective, outside any particular religion. We've got all these apologists. We've got Muslims. We've got every flavor of Christians separately from each other making claims. We've got Buddhists and Hindus and Sikhs and everybody making claims. Our way is the truth. It's the correct way, etc. From outside, how are we to tell who's right? No one can demonstrate a superior perspective. No one can demonstrate greater accuracy. So it's not even to the level of we have no reason to believe. It's why should we even consider believing your thing in the first place? So that's why Frank won't talk about other religions. It's just God belief or atheism.
But it's so interesting too, because like you said, like with atheism, it's like this weird, like that means there was no cause at all. Like there was nothing that could cause anything type of thing. You know what I mean? And it's like, dude, it's actually the opposite. Like we atheists, like we have actually, it's an infinite number of possibilities, and that's what we're trying to say is that the number of possibilities, like it could be some type of interdimensional thing that doesn't even know it exists, doesn't know it's creating stuff, doesn't know, and we're just like a byproduct, of this thing that makes universes and just keeps on flying or whatever.
No, I have the answer to that one. It's Nil, the great not God and creator of creator gods, who created the creator gods in order for Lisa the rainbow giraffe to eat them all and then poop out the universe. It's a coherent story, and we've seen images of both Nil and Lisa the rainbow giraffe. I mean, the skeptic has been on this channel. That's right. So we can demonstrate these things better than any of the theistic gods.
That's right. Leaf be upon them.
Hell yes.
That's awesome.
Moorhead.
Yeah. And Moorhead. That one's so weird to me. Moorhead. That's awesome. Yeah, it's exactly. And it's like because they want, to put atheists in this group where we're just like saying, that it's only nothing and that's it. Like, and that's their straw man of it, because they're not seeing us as skeptics. They're seeing us as someone making a claim the same way they are. You know what I mean? As far as I can tell, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they have to pretend. It's the same thing as with, oh, well, science. Well, you just have faith in science the same way I have faith in the Bible. No. We can demonstrate our shit, home slice,
Yeah. I love it when they say that too. My new favorite thing to say, because everybody loves to repeat this idiot when they say, oh, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. And now I'm just like, okay, so you're admitting that faith is an irrational reason to have beliefs. Is that what you're saying? Because they're like, they have their thing. They're proud of their thing until you point out why it's unreasonable. And they're like, yeah, well, you do it. You're the one doing it. It's like, okay, so you just admitted that it's unreasonable to use faith to think things. And they're like, no, I'm just fuck. They just get all twisted up because they realize, oh yeah, I've like basically accepted that this is irrational and I'm just putting it back on you. And that somehow gets me out of it. It's too quickly, type of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So the more clever Frank tries to be, the more he gives us tools to fight back against him. And Kent Hovind does the same thing. He says shit like, "Oh, well, you atheists have your evolution, and that's your religion. Just admit it's a religion." I'm like, well, you're shitting on it because you say it's a religion, so you acknowledge that religion is a shitty way to come to conclusions.
It's like you're angry at your own thing. I don't understand how they can do this. Let me see if we can get some comments here. Got a few people here. Sorry, we're not going to be able to get to as many. Every time I've got guests, I always feel bad because I can't get to as many comments, but I'm going to try to go.
Oh, I'm the same way. I try to engage with the chat as much as I can for whatever format's going on, because I love engaging with the people in real time. Like, it's actual people who are there, and sometimes we get the best insights or the best jokes, and it's fucking fantastic.
Yes.
But it isn't always easy to do all the things at once.
Right. That's and it was, with ADHD, it's like so I have to like focus on one thing at a time. Otherwise, I'm just like blah, 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 like doing everything and missing everything simultaneously. It's amazing. But let me see here. So I'll try to do at least a couple from each person. That's what we'll do here. And let me go down after everybody says hi. So we got Native Atheist. Hey, this is for Maya. What do you have in store for us for Bad Science Sunday? Oh, that's actually a good question because that's later today. So,
Yes.
and here's Maya responding. Saw you online later. Ember, thanks for trying to make the world a better place. It doesn't deserve you. I couldn't agree more. I guess that's not the response, but that is a good thing to say. And it's super duper true. But here we go. A native atheist. After last night, I thought about not igniting another dumpster fire tonight, but then I remembered who I am and decided, fuck that shit. Full stream ahead. Hell yeah. We got to move forward. I know it can be difficult at times, especially when there's disagreement, and there's always going to be disagreement with us. We're atheists, we're not a thing. We're the negation of a thing, so it makes it kind of
difficult. It's just to me it's a matter of how we address our disagreements, because we all believe in rationality. That's right. One thing that pretty much, because if we didn't, we'd be theists. That's why we're atheists. We're like, that nonsense is irrational.
That's good.
So like, how do we resolve our disagreements? Do we shout at each other? Do we make big dramatic messes and try to chase people away? Or do we talk about it like adults? Maybe, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, that'd be the best way to go. I'd argue, but it's not always easy. Jeez. Let's see here. Why is it? Oh, it's Maya. Mo, you're still alive. Good on you. Glad you're here. Where's Mo?
Hooray! in fact,
that's awesome. Oh man,
try not to die is my personal slogan. Any day you manage to not die, it's another victory.
It's a good day. It's a good day for everybody. Let's see. Deep State. What is it? Deep State Station.
Yep. It's Commander 401. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. What's up, man? Good morning. Yes, this is Commander 401. The channel has a new name. Oh, cool. Very cool. I like that.
Yeah,
name.
Commander. If correct me if I'm mistaken, but Commander has been trying to get some of the former The Shills cast members back together to do more group show kind of things. I caught a sliver of it yesterday, but there's so much going on. Who has time for everything, But yeah, it's a really cool project, I think, because I have nothing against Dunk and Dick who do the shows now, but the other former cast members also have a lot to offer, and seeing them do their thing together, I think, is a wonderful thing.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, I love collab type stuff. It's always like I always have like a few podcasts that I really like, and it was like they a few years ago it was like the Puzzle and the Thunderstorm guys. Probably my favorite. They do like god awful movies and Scathing Atheist, and they got with it's another show that I like called the Cognitive Dissonance, and it's Tom and Cecil, these two guys just shooting the shit kind of thing. And they all ended up getting together for a show called Citation Needed. And I was like, this is like the Avengers. This is awesome. Like, I just, love that type of stuff. What? That's awesome. Jeez.
Blame Sinister Porpoise for that one.
Oh, Mr. Porpoise. Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Let's see. Where else? We'll do one more, and then we'll do... Oh, we got Michael here. Let's see what Michael's got to say. Michael said, "Oh well, during with all my tele interviews, even more with psych doctor ones." I'm sure that's a response. Let me get a different one because I don't know what he's referring to.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Like I must have missed something.
Mid conversation is always difficult.
I know, right? Let's see. Yeah, because and a lot of it's like inside jokes with each other, which is like it's so funny because they're like, oh, this is a joke that two people in chat have together. It's like I'm glad that I have that sort of thing with everybody too. I get it, but it's just funny. Let's see. Michael said, wait a minute, no one told me I had to be an adult. I mean, you don't have to. I mean, I guess technically you have to, if age type.
I mean, Frank is a rich and successful man by most standards, and he behaves like a fucking toddler. So,
yeah. I mean, look at him.
It could work out.
He wears like working glasses, like eye protective glasses, just to look smart because I think that he thinks that helps. I feel like that's something a toddler would do, right? Let's see. Oh, Robin, hey, what's up? Robin said, "I heard sucking dick." That's Joey.
That's how we summon people.
Joey and Steve back here. Guys, can you keep it down a little bit? All right, people can hear you. All right. Try to, I ask them to wait until after the stream's done. They just not having it. But
nope.
All right, let's get back to Frankie here.
Give this illustration, particularly on a college campus. I'll say, how do you know that your quarterback throwing a touchdown is better than your quarterback throwing a pick six? That's when he throws it to the other team and they take it back for a touchdown. And people initially don't get it. They say, well, the rules. No, it's not just the rules. The only way a touchdown's better than an interception is the purpose of the game. And that a touchdown takes you closer to the purpose and a pick six takes you further away. If there was no purpose to the game, you couldn't make any judgment to say, this is a good play, the touchdown, and this is a bad play, the pick six.
Okay. Yeah. And it's almost as if if we had a bunch of people all changing the rules to the game and getting really petty, about that and just making up their own rules, that this doesn't work for so many reasons. And actually, the funny thing here is that Sam Harris, as much as I don't like the guy, but he was actually right about this in the sense of you're ignoring the rules. You're basically saying that your rules matter more than the rules that we all pretty much agree with, which is human flourishing is good. And you're like, yeah, but no, though, because it's human flourishing is good, but only because my God wants us to. And then that makes up all these weird arbitrary rules that literally lead to the opposite of human flourishing.
Yeah, Frank's argument falls apart in several different ways. Just to name three, like you were saying, it's like we're all at a football game and everybody else is saying scoring a touchdown is good because it serves your purpose. And Frank is saying, no, throwing an interception is better because my holy book says so. Never mind the rules, never mind the objective. We're going to make up our own thing and pretend that's true. That's exactly what's happening. But also, we made up those rules, Frank. Humans came up with those and decided what was the better outcome. So, So and even if you want to pretend, you want to take this bad analogy and assume it applies to the whole universe, then you've got the issue of Sam Harris's argument. What is the clear benefit? What is better for you, your goal, your survival as a team, if you will? You don't have to declare a touchdown is better because it's an emergent property of the field on which you are playing. So, I mean, Frank debunks himself with every sentence out of his fucking mouth.
Right? Okay, because I gotta say too, isn't the other thing I think why they think this is so compelling is because these are the same people that are always arguing for the suffering of people. Sometimes you gotta suffer. God wants to test you. And tough love, sometimes you gotta, make your kid homeless. You gotta let your kid be homeless for them to figure out that, struggling with drugs is bad or whatever, so they want suffering. So that's why it's the suffering or well-being don't even come into it. It has nothing to do with why they think things should be good or bad, but yet they're trying to say that their holy book is the basis for all things that are good or bad, and then constantly go against what we all intuitively know. Like he was just saying, oh, it's intuitive. and hurting people, and then pointing at their book to be like, here's why I'm hurting you though, because my perfect objective morality says that I'm allowed to. It's obnoxious. It's like
Extremely, and the double speak is just constant. Like, you know, if you everyone is evil. That if you bring up the problem of evil, that's Frank's normal go-to is, oh, well, everyone's evil, so you deserve the suffering. You should be praising God for the moments you aren't suffering, because constant suffering is what you deserve, you know?
wow.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, do you even see what the fuck you're doing here, man?
Right. And that just boils into the manipulation part of it. And it's like I feel like a lot of times they don't realize that the parts where they're saying like you're evil and you have, you know, everybody's evil and that's, you know, you have to like you should thank God that we're not just being tortured right now. That's like all meant to just make you feel like a piece of shit so that then you can go get your purpose sold to you from the fucking church that you go to or whatever, where they grant you the forgiveness for the fucking shame that they caused in the first place. Like it's just a cycle of manipulation.
Yeah, it's guilt. It's the same guilt. They start with when you're very little, before they even explain to you how worthless and wicked you are, is, well, Jesus died for you. You owe him because he gave his weekend up for you, you know?
Yeah. And for all we know, he could have been killing it. He could have gone to the future in like a second, grabbed like 17 Oxycontins, grabbed them, you know, just took them down, and then went on the cross. We wouldn't know. He's magic. He has all the power in the universe to make, he could just make Oxycontins appear in his stomach while he's up there on the cross. We don't know, you know?
Yeah.
So,
And
probably
I'm gonna tangent just for a second. Why did Joseph and Mary flee from Herod's soldiers who were, you know, looking for baby Jesus to go kill him, when God's plan was for Jesus to die? Like,
yeah.
people say, oh, well, it wasn't time yet. Jesus had to teach and spread his message. Do you suppose that if an infant were murdered and then glowed bright light, made the Shroud of Turin, and suddenly was alive again, that infant would not suddenly have the attention of every fucking rabbi in the Holy Land, you know?
Right. And they would be able to sell the innocent thing better. Like, oh, it was an innocent life that was taken, you know, because that, you know, child innocence. Like, yeah, the whole, like, them having to like say that he was totally perfect his whole life, and then you can read the story where he's clearly not being perfect.
Yeah, he
to
needed
their own
time to
rules.
spread his message.
Yeah.
He needed time beforehand, but then he stuck around afterwards anyway to, you know, finish some more details, whatever. Like, none of it fucking makes any sense.
Wow. Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, the whole thing is just I just don't, it's just all feels so unnecessary. You know what I mean? Like, why do you have to do this to forgive people? You know, just sounds really weird.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
can't forgive
but
unless I
feel
catch murder.
guilty.
Yeah, if you feel guilty
Feel-
though. Even I
Yeah.
can't forgive unless there's torture murder, but you feel bad because you're probably a bad person or something, you know. Because I thought that you're a torture murderer, dude. Why do I don't you're bad. Like, you don't get the shame. This is like Bill
Yeah.
Cosby shaming people for swearing. You're like, dude, you can't shame people. You're a rapist. What are you doing? Like, you can't, you know, like, you don't get the, you know, do this. Nope. That's awesome.
Yeah, not exactly the glowing moral standard. And, you know, Frank does that too. You know, he's like, oh no, I'm a sinner too. No one should listen to me. You should listen to the book though. You know.
Right. And my interpretation of my doctrine of my denomination of my, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know what? God's a murderer too. If the book is true, he's committed more genocide than anyone ever in history, you know? I mean, according Frank even says this. God, under his interpretation, God is real, etc. God kills everyone, not just in the genocides, everyone who's ever died. That's God doing that, you know?
Right. That's a great point. I never think of it that way. Just like, because he is the scythe guy. What a death, just death, whatever. You know, he's that magical being that decides when everybody dies.
Yeah, Angel of Death, Grim Reaper. That's his minion, but it's all according to God's will. It's all part of the plan, or depending on which story. Like, you know, if you get Frank into a corner on the flood, he'll be like, oh well, you know, the babies and the innocents were translocated to heaven. They didn't have to suffer and drown. We have no reason to think so. I'm just making that up to make the story suck less
Palatable.
but also, like, if you think about it, that's what happens to everyone.
Yeah.
Except not, because we've seen people die. Like people suffer an accident with farm equipment, say, and they're gored and they're bleeding and they only have a few minutes and they're like, tell my mother that I love her, that sort of thing. There's clearly suffering and death involved,
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Like, yeah, it's funny too. I'm hoping he'll bring up the Nazi thing, because they always love to bring that up as like why society can't choose. You know what I mean? And it's just like a fundamental misunderstanding of like, we're just talking about human behavior, dude. Like that's it. We're just talking about like how to behave as a society. Like, yeah, it came from evolution, but that's kind of not really important. Like we're just, because they're always like, but where'd it come from? No, it's like, well, everything came from evolution that's human, right? Because we're human and that's how we got here. But like that really doesn't come into it that much. It has to do with just us sharing space on the planet. And when people do things that other people don't like, we kind of like go to other people and like, hey, that was messed up, right? They shouldn't have done that, right? And we're like, yeah, I'm like, okay, that's a thing that we should not do to people then. And that's it. And it like it works its way up to the laws. And most of what they're talking about when they talk about the society deciding is it takes a while. Actually, I say it takes a while, but there's a push and pull, like an eternal push and pull of what matters to the poor and what matters to the powerful, right? And so, like, what matters to the poor people typically is going to be what we would consider your average morality, right? Like, not, treating people right and everything. But powerful people don't have that same sense of morality because they don't care about other people. So most of what they're talking about, well, society didn't care. It was the powerful people not, caring about what the rest of society thought was good or bad. Because if we're talking about the society in Nazi Germany, what were the Jewish people not part of that society? Who were they? So they don't count. What they thought was like, right or wrong didn't matter. That's where like it all just falls apart. Like it's
history is a long string of dehumanizing people that you don't want to share rights with. Like the rich people, oh, those are just peasants. They're just serfs. They're not like real people like us nobility and aristocrats and shit. And then they get rights and, oh, well, they're real people, but the slaves aren't real people. They're human-like, but they're just beasts of burden with a exceptional ability to like talk in language and whatever the fuck. And then they, okay, they're real people, but the Jews, they're not the real people. It's just one thing after another, and it's the same story. And it's only after horrible things happen and a couple of generations pass that the ever increasingly large group of people who have the rights to make decisions about things come to realize maybe we should include this other group too.
Right. Exactly. Because it's going to end up being worse for them in the long run, which, we see this with most of our revolutions, right? Like they murdered all the rich people because, they're like being mistreated for so long. And they're like, you know what? Fuck this shit. Can we just like get rid of these people? Why are we doing this? There's more of us than there are them. Kind of
that's what happened in France,
right? Yeah, see, exactly.
It's happened before. It can happen again, I assure you.
Oh, I'm sure it will. Yeah. But yeah, so it's just a lot, and it's funny. It's because they're just like oversimplifying that complicated process into so who decides, and it's just like we all do. It's not difficult to see how this how it works and how it happens. But yeah, it's so funny.
If there likewise, if there is no purpose to life, you can't say that, say, loving somebody is the right way to live and murdering them is the wrong way to live, because there's no objective to life. Without purpose, you can't determine good or bad, right or wrong. Even from a pragmatic perspective, you can't determine that. So there's got to be a purpose.
He's equivocating.
That's wild. Like,
did you see him do that with the whole objective as in goal or purpose?
Right. And he's putting
that's not together. What he he's changing the meaning on us, that slippery little fucker.
Yeah. He's like take it like as if, and when you apply an objective, which is what Sam Harris did, he applied an objective, which is well-being or whatever, which I think is actually, well-being's fine because that just include that just when we talk about well-being, we're just talking about like people having the things they need to succeed, right? Or to live and succeed. Is that what we're talking? Like, what is is it like? Because I mean, I don't think everybody's feeling pleasure. all the
Reduce
time.
suffering, increase well-being. You know, greater health, greater access to health care. Like you cannot expand that too much. Like if we want to double the amount of doctors in hospitals, that's not a bad thing, you know.
I think like we just need to get everybody ecstasy, and then they can be feeling pleasure all the time, and then that's more well-being, right? So no, I'm just kidding. I don't I don't think it has that doesn't come into it, but
yeah. But you know, I can almost get down with Frank's twisted version of objective morality. Like, there's an objective. Anything that moves towards that objective is therefore moral.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not what we meant by objective. We meant mind independent, you know, the philosophical definition of objective as opposed to subjective. But if you want to go with identify a goal and what works towards that goal is therefore moral, I mean, as long as we all agree on the goal, sure, I'm willing to go with that.
Yeah, I mean, and even so, like it because if you have the goal, then even if we don't necessarily agree, we can agree that if this is the goal, that this gets you closer to that or gets you farther away, right? So even if people don't agree, we could still that's why you almost have to tie a bow on it and be like, okay, yeah, objective morality can work as long as it's within this little system that we create where the goal is well-being. But otherwise,
and we kind of do that, you know, and the democratic process is a number. Well, when it works, it's a number of individual issues. Here's what's on the docket. You know, we want to extend voting rights to more people. We want to give greater healthcare access to more people. We want to improve schools or at least reduce violence in schools. And everybody, you know, weighs in. They're like, oh, I'm for this, I'm against this. Most of it, most people are neutral on. Like, I have the right to vote. I don't care if anyone else does. But very few people are going to oppose more people having the right to vote.
Well,
you know, and so, yeah, right?
They're like, too many people vote.
My fucking God. It's getting wild out there. Did you see they had it was that Christian nationalist conference that they put together. They had, I forget the fellow's name, but a black man come on and say that women shouldn't have the right to vote. They need to make that a Republican platform idea. And then they had a woman come on and say black people shouldn't have the right to vote, and that needs to be a Republican platform idea. And there have been women campaigning against women being able to vote and run for office. Fucking Michelle Bachmann. Her platform is make me president so I can strip women of the right to vote. You know?
And then a leopard got up there. A leopard came out and just started eating people's faces. And, you know, that's what... Jesus, wow, that's incredible. They see, this is why it just can't work for their whole thing. Their exclusionary, like, I got mine, fuck you type of politicking just does not work. They're always going to be eating each other. It's never going to, wow, it's fascinating.
American politics is fucked up. I mean, the left gets in trouble too because, you know, there's a saying, the left eats their own. And it's true. Like there's people who are out there, you know, they're focused on a couple specific issues. That's their thing. That's what they're working towards. But then people who are focused on other issues are like, hey, you're not doing enough for the issue I care about. Therefore, you're just performative. You're a fake ally, etc. And they attack people on their own fucking side because they're not putting their efforts into what they think is the most important. Yeah, the left has a problem too with devouring each other, and fucking humans got to get their shit together, or the aliens are going to show up and just wipe us all out because we're so divided. You know?
Right? Yeah. It's very a good point. Yeah, we'll see.
There's no purpose to life, and even Richard Dawkins admits this. He famously said that in a universe of blind physical forces, there is no justice, there is no good, there is no evil. Things just happen, and you know, bad things happen. And he goes on to say, I'm obviously paraphrasing, I don't have it memorized, but he says, we just dance to our DNA. We're just molecular machines. In other words, we're just moist robots.
I feel like he was, you know, I mean, as much as I hate Dawkins, they always like take what they're saying, like, and they put it in this weird context, and it's like this argument. They always put it in this argument of from ignorance kind of thing, like, oh, we're all just a bunch of atoms, so that means nothing means anything to anybody, you know. And it's like that's not. I don't think that's what he's saying. He's just saying that we
Even if that were true, so what? You know?
right. Yeah. I mean, and
Like,
it
I
is
mean,
true.
he's trying to straw man. He's trying to you know, cherry pick the argument. Oh, do I have a cherry pick? I think I do. I have a graphic. Do I have it on my
Is that a,
thing though?
is that a
I
thing?
don't know if I do.
What is it like a really long needle that you just like stick in the ground like a
maybe
trash
maybe
sticker?
so. Maybe so.
It's like to
But
pick
I
up
mean,
trash.
it's fucking wild. Like, he represents it, like the universe, the whole fucking cosmos, billions upon billion, trillions of galaxies, each with 100 billion stars, with who knows how many planets around them. The universe doesn't give a fuck what you think is right or wrong. Well, that's true, but also, so what? You know? Does
Yeah,
that mean argument from incredulity, ergo God? Because I can't bring myself to believe that, therefore made up mythology must be true? Like,
right.
it's a huge non sequitur.
Yeah, and a lot of it, it's like exactly like what you're saying too. It's like another emotional manipulation thing because he's like, look, if you don't believe in my God, then that means anytime any person is like tortured and killed or whatever, besides Jesus, of course, that was a good one. But anytime that happens, it's not objectively bad. So believe my thing, believe my thing. Otherwise, you know, badness isn't bad. Like that's so, like, emotionally manipulative, like, in such an obvious way, and I don't know why people don't get it so just like, "Oh, right," like, right away. You're just like, "Okay, but what I think about what should be objectively right and wrong doesn't make it doesn't determine whether a God exists or not. That doesn't speak to that at all." You know? That's just wishful thinking that you're playing off of there.
A lot.
And I mean, I guess that's their whole bag. I mean, really, their whole thing is like wishful thinking.
Special pleading, wishful thinking. The rest is just justification.
Yeah, they're like, just wouldn't you like to live forever with the family members that you love, like having a good time? And wouldn't you love it if the people that you don't like go to a place where they get tortured and everything? Because if you don't believe my thing, none of that's going to happen. Okay, so believe my thing. Just do it.
If we're just moist robots, then murdering someone, first of all, we didn't make the free choice to do that. We were just compelled by physics or evolution to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Or loving them, same thing. It's just what is. It's not an ought. You can't get this ought from biology. You only
I don't. What do you know what this thing? And I know it's Hume, and it irritates me because I feel like, you know, you can't get an ought from an is, that whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah,
very
yeah.
unfamiliar with it, but, like, it seems to me that if something is harmful, you ought not do it. Why can't I say that? I feel like that's is that goes against
Well, because you're not playing the game of checkers by chess rules. You see, so you're doing it wrong. Yeah, yeah. The is ought problem from a strict philosophical standpoint, you cannot get an ought from an is. You can list ises all day long, statements of fact. You never will reach a therefore we should X. You have to insert an ought, even if it's a hidden ought somewhere in your premises, to get to an ought conclusion. Like, for example, you know, viruses are killing us. That's an is. We don't want to be killed by viruses. That's an is. Therefore, we should all take vaccines. That's an ought. The hidden thing that's in there is we ought to do something about being killed by viruses. You know, you have to insert that hidden ought. So the is ought problem isn't saying you can't get an ought from an is, even though it's phrased that way. It's saying that when someone produces an ought from a series of ises, there's a hidden ought statement in their premises. Look for that, and that'll show you where to attack their reasoning.
Oh, okay. God, okay, thank you. I haven't like gotten to Hume yet. I feel like it seems very complicated every time I've taken a look. Still on. I'm on I have to do one philosopher at a time, and I'm still on Albert Camus because I really like him. But okay, that makes more sense. So it's less about It's less about it being wrong. Like has to do with like why is that wrong, kind of thing, and that why is implicit in that type of reasoning when you phrase it that way. When you put
Yeah,
it,
it's
okay,
always there. It's a I think it's phrased that way for code reasons, like it's sort of a code switching kind of thing, because when you say it, it sounds one way to laymen, but people who know the secret see between the lines, and it's literally reading between the lines. It's telling you you have to look for the hidden ought in that list of ises in order to get to the ought conclusion. So it's a way of reading between the lines to tell you you have to read between the lines. It's
wow.
fucking trippy.
That's why. See, that's where the like philosophy just makes me like want to bash my head in the wall. Sometimes it's just like, what? This is nonsense, but it's not, because you just, you just have to sit
It's
and really think about it.
perfectly logical when it's used correctly, but people like to abuse it. They like to try to trick people with it. They like to try to apply things backwards. Like we're constantly seeing people like Frank affirming the consequent, right? We see if good, therefore God. We see good in the world, therefore there must be a God. But that doesn't actually make sense logically. It's presented in a way that sounds logical.
Right.
I think I got that backwards actually. If there is God, then there should be good in the world. Since there is good in the world, there must be God. And that's basically Frank's entire argument in this video. We see good in the world, therefore there must be God. But that doesn't actually, that's a fallacy. That does not, it doesn't mean it's automatically wrong. Let's not be guilty of the fallacy. But it doesn't mean it's logically correct. You can't assert that it's correct because it is a fallacy.
Huh. Okay. So is that, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but is that almost like saying that I believe that there is a 5 tentacled God, because look, we have 5 fingers on our hands, so that means in our 10,
And we're made in its image.
and we're making it so it has to exist because look, they're right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's got to have 5 tentacles. Like, isn't that kind of the same thing? Like, it's like working backwards, like just looking at something that you see and then be like, that must be the magic thing. Must be like that, that I'm just making up.
Yeah,
okay.
we can make up any random thing, and I'm glad you threw out an example rather than just pointing at what Frank's doing, showing how it works, because it is the same damn thing. You can take any observed phenomenon and then put something made up behind it and say, because of the observed phenomenon, therefore the thing I just made up. That works for everything, and that fundamentally is, if not the underpinning of all religion, it's at least a foundation stone for every single religion.
Yeah, it's like a begging the question, right? Like you're assuming your conclusion and your premise.
It's related, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like religion, like pretty much everything I've seen, just any religious argument, it feels like it's always some kind of begging the question, one way or another. You know what I mean? But
yeah. Well, I can't say every single one is begging the question, but a while back I did a dive into a precept person who called into Dave Warnock's show, and the point with the precept people, and it's true for fundamentally, most people like Frank, the apologists, are precepts. They have to be, because it's the only way they can push their arguments as far as they can, is by assuming there's a blank spot at the bottom of their epistemology, and in that blank spot they've put therefore God, or yo mama, to call back to that other video. Whatever it is, it's something they arbitrarily put in there. They played Mad Libs with their epistemology. And they make a big goddamn circle, but it's still a circle. They're always, if you trace it far enough, you'll always find they're begging the question.
Yeah. Okay. See. Okay. Yeah. It's so interesting. I'm like I said, I'm still like learning a lot of like the just like what it's called and stuff like that, and going through all the fallacies and things like that. So it is interesting. It helps to just kind of like iron it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, knowing the names of fallacies is great because it gives you good shorthand to call them out, but you don't actually have to know the names of them. just look at a person's argument, and as long as you can explain why it's wrong, you don't need the special terminology. In fact, in some ways, it's better if you don't use it, because as soon as you start calling out fallacy names, anybody who hasn't studied philosophy just tunes right the fuck out. But if you can explain why it's broken logically, everybody gets it, you know?
Right. So yeah, exactly. I've heard that quite a bit, because I think they used to do that on like the atheist experience a lot. Just be like, oh, here's the fallacy, there's the fallacy, and it's
Mhm.
I think it was Matt that finally was like, look, we got to stop doing that. Just say what the fallacy is. Stop just saying what the fallacy. I mean, you can say it at the end, but make sure you explain first what it is, because like what you just said, you got to they'll just turn off like, oh, fallacy, whatever,
Mhm.
because it can get complicated at times,
Mhm.
Only get and is. This is what happens. How do we have moral obligations if there is no, first of all, is no moral standard and is no authority to say you ought to behave this way? You don't get moral obligations. You might get moral sentiments. You might get, I have this idea that love is better than murder, but you're not obligated to obey love is better than murder if there is no objective moral standard, and there is no
Well,
good
yeah.
beyond us.
If there is no objective lawgiver beyond us, then there's no obligation to obey an objective law. Well, yeah. That's
Right.
why we all have to agree on shit, Frank. If
Right.
there were an all-powerful, objective authority, lawgiver, whatever, who is all-powerful, we wouldn't have the option to behave in immoral ways. It would not be available to us, because even with free will, whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean, the power being that has infinite capability to manipulate reality would always have the capability to alter circumstance to take that option away from us. Like, say you want to do something, you wake up in the morning and you're like, I'm going to go be evil. I'm going to go push a stroller in front of a dump truck. So you set out to do that. That's your purpose. There's an all-powerful being that makes the dump truck blow a tire a block away, or makes the person with the stroller leave a minute later, or whatever. Whatever it is, you can still have free will, and the ability to do evil would be denied you by an all-powerful being. The fact we do not see that, it's people say evidence of absence, or absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, but in this case it very much is, because that's a thing we would predict that must happen. It is a logical entailment of the divine being that Frank is postulating. It must happen, and the fact it does not happen is proof positive that thing Frank is postulating does not exist. It cannot exist.
Right.
So,
because that's
good job, Frank. You just proved God again.
Because that's kind of like in the league with the same, like, it can't be all powerful and all moral. Is that kind of connects? Because if it's all powerful, it could stop the bad things from happening, and if it if you have the power, what is it? If you have the power to stop something bad from happening and you don't do it, that would be an immoral action on your part, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
God-
Like Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrels doesn't like to take it to absolutes. He likes to keep it at a level where people can relate and understand on a visceral level. And he says, it's so easy to be a better God than this supposedly morally perfect Yahweh character. Say, for example, you're God, and you still do the global flood. All you have to do is kill one less baby, and you're more moral than Yahweh. Just one less baby, you know? You're still a horrible, but you're more moral than Yahweh, objectively, by any fucking standard.
Right.
Ergo, Yahweh cannot be morally perfect. If it's capable, if it's possible to be more moral, then he's not the best, you know?
I see. Yeah, and that kind of and then I've seen them respond to that with like the whole Euthyphro thing, right? Where it's like, and I don't know if he does. Does he do the divine command theory thing? Is that is that something he does, or is that, because that feels like anytime the divine command theory thing comes out, it's just like, okay, so you're literally just redefining what right and wrong is, and kind of like saying that it has to be an objective standard, but then you're also throwing out that standard and saying it doesn't apply as long as you're the god. And it's like I'm so
He does do a
it's so
version of
confused.
that.
Look,
He says something like, it's basically the parent argument. You know, I brought you into this world. I have the right to take you out of it, which of course is not true. You know, when a parent actually murders their child, they go to jail for that. You know, there have been a few infamous cases about that in recent decades. So no, that doesn't hold up. And if it's not true for mortals, if we as imperfect, sinful mortals can see that that is not either moral or logically sound, then it's definitely not true for a perfect being, you know?
right. Okay. Yes. Yeah, it gets the perfect, like all of the what do you call it? Like the all anything, or the all powerful, all knowing, all that stuff just always seems to be in contradiction with itself at some point. Right? I mean, you can't be all that stuff, right? Like I feel like it doesn't.
Yeah.
It always runs into itself at some point. You know?
And the philosophy bros have a workaround. They've started saying, well, God isn't omni everything. He's maximally great. He's maximally powerful. He's the highest level that it's logically consistent for him to be, which is a great way to shift the goalposts, except we see you doing it. The fact you have to move the goalposts demonstrates you're acknowledging that your argument was flawed and continues to be flawed.
Yeah, because it's not logically possible to be able to walk on water, is it? Like I feel
Well,
like
I can think of a couple of ways.
it is really okay. I was like going to say like doing things that are
sea
literally
turtles, mate.
impossible.
Ooh, I have a turtle. Where's my turtle?
Okay.
Where's my
Sea
turtle? There we go. Sea turtles, mate.
turtles.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a space turtle, but still.
Like changing
But
the
also
molecular
ice.
structure.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's frozen water, but it's still water, and you can walk on it. Or if the water is really shallow, like technically you're sinking into the water, but you're most of you is above it, so you're walking over it, kind of like.
Okay.
It's
so logically
that one's a little
possible
hinky, but yeah.
is different than like whether it's possible. Is that like
Oh well, yeah,
like
that's a
possible
whole
is
other can of worms because
okay. I get so confused now because I'm like, but
yeah,
like, if you always
logic.
say this, and then it's like, but how did he? I mean, just existing for all eternity. I feel like it's okay. You know that you just said it has to be logically possible, yet it exists out. Like it doesn't have to come into existence at all. Doesn't that make it like isn't that in contradiction with having to be logically possible or whatever? I don't know. I feel like
That's
there's a
that's
bunch
what
of
I mean when I say definitions of gods that have been presented are often incoherent and self-contradictory. Like when you go with the transcendent version of God that Frank and other apologists have been a fan of lately, God, you can't find God even though he's omnipresent because he exists outside of the universe and outside of time. That's how he gets around that whole creation of the universe thing. He was outside the universe in the first place. Well, first of all, to exist means you have a specific location within time space. If you're outside time space, you definitionally do not exist. So good job there, you disproved God again. But also, the Holy Book contradicts that. Right from the beginning, God was over the waters, which were somehow there before God showed up, but never mind that. God was physically present within the realm of the universe. It has happened, and it's happened more than once. God was physically present in the Garden of Eden when he was trying to find Adam and Eve who were successfully hiding from him. God was physically present when he went to go murder fucking Moses, because he hadn't circumcised his son. God was physically there, ready to stab a bitch until Moses' wife sliced his dingleberries right in front of God. The foreskin hit God in the face. He was physically present in the universe.
I need to reread this story. I don't what it's been a minute.
God shows up a lot, you know?
I do not remember that story. Okay. That's awesome. He got hit in the face with the foreskin. I mean, you know, and if you want to get hit in the face with the foreskin, there you go. We made it. You knew it was coming. Go to adamandeve.com and enter that code word Brentley at checkout to get 50% off almost any one item, 6 free movies, 3 free gifts, and free shipping on the whole order. And it does have discreet packaging. It doesn't say on the package you can hit your face with a foreskin using this. It doesn't say that. That's not one of the things that it says. As much as I contest Adam and Eve, they're not, .com, they're not listening to me. But I think it'd be cooler if it was labeled. But but yeah. So, wow. Okay. Because I'm glad we kind of got into this because I really wanted to get into the ichtheist position, which has all to do with that, right? That the concept of a God alone is incoherent, right? Like it's not. It cancels itself out because of the attributes that we give to it. Is that accurate? Is that the right way to say that?
Yeah. It's not just self-contradictory necessarily, although we do see that a lot, like in the case of Yahweh. But just the definition, the proposed entity just doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense. And, I mean, I can't say that's true for every God. Like you could define God in such a way, like, oh, God is just the emergent property of the universe that exists. Okay, so now you're panpsychism, whatever. The universe is God, if you want to call it that. The cosmos is God. Fine. But you're just relabeling a thing we already have a term for in order to make your term have a viable definition. If you want to get into what people generally mean by a God, like a disembodied spiritual entity, whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean, or maybe they have a body, but they like Zeus, for example. Zeus is a very consistent definition of a god. He's basically a supersized human with magic powers. He's human, but he's big. He's got flaws. He's not a perfect being by any stretch of the imagination, and he's got certain specific abilities. So he's not incoherent, but he's demonstrably not true. We can go look on top of Mount Olympus and we see no Zeus. We can go investigate what causes lightning, and it's not thunderbolts made by Vulcan,
Right.
So I suppose to be more complete about it, any god that we haven't specifically disproven has an incoherent definition because they have to make it so unfalsifiable. Otherwise, we disprove it. And when they do that, they also make it incoherent.
Okay. Interesting. So, yeah, because that's a lot of times what I was saying, too. Like, they're telling, like, because I feel like, how can I believe or not believe in something that can take so many different shapes? You know what I mean? Like, how, like, but it's just this one word, God, like, encompasses a blue person with a bunch of arms, or an invisible thing that, made the universe and just kept going or whatever. Or I guess that's deism, but still. Or something that just observe, because like they're trying to say that the observer effect is God. And so it's just something that observes now. We're changing the definition all the way down to just observing shit.
That would make us God, right? Because
Right.
we observe shit all the time. Also, the observer effect is Deepak Chopra bullshit. That's a whole other thing. But
Yeah,
it's not a real thing.
I was gonna say it's like a complete I was talking, because it's like a physicist or physics thing, and it's completely not what they were trying to make it out to be. I was so confused because the quantum physics is just really complicated.
It's not as bad as people think. It's just probability calculations instead of exact position calculations, but that's neither here nor there. No, the observer effect, it comes to us from famously the double slit experiment, though we do see a similar thing in multiple other places where, you shoot beams of electrons as a substitute for photons through two slits. You get an interference pattern. But if you put a detector on one of the slits to see which one the electrons go through, that's your observer effect, then the electrons behave like particles. But here's the thing. Electrons are discrete packets of electromagnetic energy with a specific charge. Electrons have a -1 charge. The detector uses a magnetic field to determine when the charge goes through. Do you suppose that maybe running charged electromagnetic packets through a magnetic field might disrupt how that electromagnetic packet behaves.
Right. You're
It's
affecting
not
it.
the
Yeah.
act of observing, it's how we're observing. We're using an electromagnetic field as a detector, which
Huh.
causes the electromagnetically active piece of energy to behave differently. Duh.
Okay. God, that makes so much more sense than everything I was looking at. I was so lost. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's like always, it's not fucking magic. It's just
yeah,
the people who are presenting the observer effect as this great unexplained quantum woo-woo, they're deliberately leaving out that key piece of information because it makes people go, whoa, that's so amazing. If
right.
they were honest with you and they gave you that one little piece of rather important detail, it'd be so obvious what's going on. So they deliberately leave it out because they're being dishonest, because they're trying to con people.
Right, and because they're basically they're trying to make it like it's because we're looking at it, like our brains and observing it is what does it, and there had to be this same type of situation at the beginning of the universe. Therefore, invisible spirit brain, they're observing it at the beginning of the universe. We're done. Like that's the Deepak Chopra got or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
and there's
no, it has
people
to
who
do with an
run with it.
electromagnetic field. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's so
There's
funny.
people out here saying that because of the observer effect, the moon doesn't exist when no one's looking at it. I'm like, you realize the tides were here a long time before primates evolved, right?
So it's like a tree in the woods, but okay, wow, incredible. People are funny.
Yeah,
Wow,
humans are weird.
right? Jeez Louise. All right, let's take a look at some of these comments, and then we'll probably have to wrap it. I got in about 15 more minutes. And we'll reach our hour and a half threshold. But I have to start doing it because otherwise we'll just hang out all day, and I will never get.
Oh, I know it. I'm the worst with tangents. We haven't let poor Frank talk very much, but I mean, honestly, we're much more interesting than he is.
I was gonna say we need to have fun. You know, exactly. We could say what he's gonna say. We already know.
Mhm.
Let's see here. Where are we at? Let me take it back up. So what? Okay. I guess this might be one of those conversations in the chat with deep state.
Oh yeah.
Change it back to too many people have changed their name this month. You've exceeded the quota. Oh, because it changed the name of the channel, so now we don't know who he is. I thought we had a new viewer, but you know, but I shouldn't know because
I mean,
feel
well,
like we had
technically,
talked about
yeah,
this.
because well, I don't know. Did Commander 401 is still Commander 401, but did the channel name change, or is it a new channel? I'm not sure.
Oh, right. I think they were saying that it's a new channel, right? Change the name. I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe Deep State can help us out here, you know.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a
so
mystery.
Deep State said killing people for no good reason is always wrong. I would agree, you know. And I think a lot of this goes back to the fact that because I always go to the categorical imperative. I don't know if you I take that approach, Ember. But like, I'm a human. I don't want bad things to happen to me. And you know, when it comes to something as basic as killing people for no reason or whatever, you know, and we can just say that if doing a particular behavior, if that behavior becomes a universal law, and then everybody's doing it, would that make the world be a better place? Like, I feel like that's just a pretty good standard we could use too, right?
Yeah, it's a think of the goal kind of thing. Does this action, does this policy work towards your goal or against it, or is it neutral? It's almost an evolution of ideas. Like we're doing a kind of artificial yet still natural selection on how we move forward as a society with that sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah, because that's what my mind goes to, is just like this is how we get along in a society. That's what I'm because we're talking about human behavior, and that's what I don't get too about like it being objective, because it's like we're talking about human behavior like I'm a human. All of us that are having this conversation are humans, right? Which means that it requires human perception for us to even be able to have the conversation in the first place, which means it could not possibly be objective, because objective means outside any thinking mind's opinion, right?
Yes. However, there are ways to make things objective even so. Like, laws. Laws are objective. Humans use their minds to concoct them, but once they're established, they're separate. It doesn't require our minds. The speed limit is 55. I don't have to agree. The police officer doesn't have to agree. It is now an objective thing, and we can change it. It's not an absolute thing, but it is an objective thing. It's outside of each of us. And we can do the same thing with morality. All you have to do to make something objective is establish a set of criteria that stand independent from mind. Like, does this thing meet, does it help people or hurt them overall? Would be one potential criteria. And there's some subjective interpretation. What do you mean by help? What do you mean by hurt? But you could get as specific or as general as you like, but as long as you establish criteria, now it's no longer a matter of your opinion. It's a matter of fact. Does this thing meet these criteria? Then it's objectively the thing, or it is objectively not the thing.
Huh. Okay. That's interesting. I've never heard it put that way. The particular set of criteria. That's interesting. I like it. That's why I always like talking to you. I always, get different perspectives. It's great.
Yeah, that's why diversity is our greatest strength, because we all have different ideas, some of which we may not have heard of before. That's why we celebrate philosophers like Hume and scientists like Einstein, because they had an idea that nobody else had before. That's why humans are valuable, because there may be 8 billion of us, but there's always one person with that unique idea that changes the entire fucking future,
Yeah, that's right. And who knows? It could be you out there, you guys, out there, So you should say your ideas out loud to people, and and it'll change the world. So that's hopefully.
It does, even if it's not a unique idea, even if it's just one more voice saying that, we shouldn't kill people. We shouldn't hurt people for no reason. We shouldn't hurt people because of who they are. Whatever it is, even if it's the same thing that other people are already saying, adding your voice, adding that weight of your intentionality to the zeitgeist, it helps shift the scales in the direction of justice and progress and the betterment of all of us.
Yeah. Right, because you're always going to have people that are, trying to hurt people for bad reasons, and so we gotta push back.
Yeah. They all make excuses because nobody likes to think of themselves being an evil person. Like Frank Turek is objectively evil in a couple of very important ways, but he doesn't see himself that way because he makes excuses. Oh, I'm serving God. I'm doing good. I'm saving souls. When he's really just a parasite who's leeching money off of vulnerable people, off of people who don't know critical thinking, who fall for his grift. He is a parasite, but he justifies it to himself.
Right, because he redefines what good and wrong is, and he makes that just my religion. And then they have this whole weird thing where they connect being my religion makes you a good person. That's a connection. Like they think that is synonymous. So then they can just do a bunch of harm and get out of jail free for it, because they're just like, well, that's not, I'm doing what's right to me. Even if it leads to harm, it doesn't matter, because I believe the actual objective morality, that my God came up with, and he's the reason that all morality exists in the first place. So I'm allowed to hurt people.
He's following in the footsteps of St. Paul, the guy who never met Jesus, claimed to have a fucking hallucination in the middle of a highway that nobody else saw, and then went around saying, never mind what Jesus actually said, just tithe money to me, praise Jesus' name, and no matter what wrongs you've done, you will be saved. It's literally buying indulgences. Send me money, praise Jesus, in parentheses, you'll be saved. That was Paul's great idea that he brought to humanity, and it's caused so much damage over the years. And Frank's just doing the same thing. Praise Jesus, pay me, you're good. You can do all the evil you want. You're still an objectively good person.
Right. Because really, you're just all the way evil. It's like, it's anyway. So, like, you know, you deserve to be tortured all the time. So, wow. Yeah. It's just, it's frustrating when they can do this and then act like the atheists that are actually trying to treat people so that they're not hurting anybody. We're the immoral ones because they're like, you're actually supposed to be hurting these people over here because they're bad and they don't deserve rights. So, y'all are messing it up for our religion being what decides is right and wrong. Jesus, it's frustrating. Let me see here. Michael, did I read this one?
Oh, yep.
Oh, okay. All right. So I went too far.
Yeah.
All right. Let me go back down because I want to make sure I get everybody.
Yeah, I think Michael clarified that one. Something about a drinking stream. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Oh, Drizzle. Let's say that. The purpose is you in your imagination. That's right. Yeah. It's up to you. And if anybody like tells you, that's awesome. If anybody tells you that you have to have their purpose, you tell them to fuck off. Okay, because no, you don't. You don't have to have anything. It's up to you. Let's see. Deep State said, "What's better for the survival of my team? That is the human race. If we're not constantly trying to kill each other over bullshit, what would help? Or that would help. Yeah, for that goal, right? Because we're all humans.
Yeah.
That's my point. Yeah, that's why humanism is such a good standard, right? Because it's like, look, whether religions are true or not doesn't matter, okay? Because everybody's going to disagree about what they think subjectively is objectively moral because they all have different religions. So let's just set all of that aside and let's just go based on demonstrated harm, right? Outside of everybody's personal, beliefs about what they think is right and wrong. It's all about humans,
Yeah.
how we treat each other,
Well, it's such a radical idea, this we keep seeing the expansion of rights to more and more people groups, and finally somebody threw up their hands and said, what if we just include all humans in the group of, humans? Crazy, right?
It's weird.
Like, let's stop fighting wars over every single specific ethnicity or belief or type of person or nationality or whatever, and just include all humans, and we won't have to have a war to save the Jews, and we won't have to have a war to liberate the African Americans, and so on and so forth. We can just agree that all humans deserve human rights, maybe. And somehow this is still controversial.
Because they will, people like these geniuses here will say that giving somebody another, equal rights is taking rights from them because now they're not allowed to hurt them. So I used to have the right to hurt these people, and now you're taking that from me. So
yeah. Like Commander was saying, Commander's new name, Deep State Station. That's it. Okay. It's to use Frank's analogy, it's like we're playing a game of football and all humans are on one team and the other team is diseases and natural disasters and climate change and all the things that want to kill us all, and we're trying to push them back, and to, a greater or lesser extent we've been succeeding. We're still here after thousands of years, but there's people on our own team that want to go tackle our own quarterback because they think they have a magic playbook that says that's what you're supposed to do. Right. And what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. But I have a book that says rules are different. So, Khaleesi said, Turk knows he's a Turk knows he's a successful grifter, snake oil salesman. yeah, pretty much. That is. Yeah, that's their whole bag. It's going around.
Oh yeah, we've caught him a few times. He knows he's lying. He's not just being deceptive in order to try to support a truth that he believes is more important than what's actually true or false. He knows he's lying. He's been caught at it a couple of times.
Really? Like how? Like what exactly? I mean, like, do you have a little like an example of like what he?
Well,
proved that.
Off the top of my head, I should just make clips of the damn thing, but that would involve watching more of Frank's content, which I don't really want to do. But one thing that comes to mind off the top of my head is how gender affirming care is evil because it goes against God's design for the human body. And then here's Frank, who had gynecomastia, and so had gender affirming care to remove that breast tissue so he would feel more like a man. And he's also wearing glasses, which is thwarting God's perfect design of his perfect eyeballs.
Right. Yeah, it's funny how like it only breaks down when it's, has to do with trans folks, feeling comfortable in their own skin. To a life-saving degree too, by the way. Like this is life-saving stuff. That's what frustrates the hell out of me, is that we're literally like making laws that are that we know are gonna get people killed, because they don't care. They don't care. They want it banned. Like I almost like, and I wouldn't never do this, but like sometimes I wonder if like Democrats should start to be as shitty as they are and like pick some demographic that is theirs and say that they're not allowed to have health care, and like because what they don't, it's like, are they ever going to get it?
We really could. We could say, if you're a Christian, no health care for you because your God promised he'll heal you anyway. So fuck off.
Right.
Like we wouldn't, because that would be a horribly immoral thing to do that would result in lots of people dying. But we absolutely could, and they could not disagree based on their own dogma. Right.
Yeah. We could just say that. Yeah, exactly. We just say that we believe that's better for you, based on your own standard that you decided that you would have.
Like seeking medical care for a Christian is actually harmful because you're never getting the demon expelled from your body, which is causing your illness in the first place. Doctors can't do that. You need a pastor to dunk you in a horse trough or some shit. Second, why are you having fallible humans mutilate your body with their surgeries and shit when you could have a perfect God perfectly heal you just by asking for or fucking whatever, you're actually harming yourself by submitting to mortal health care.
That surgery cuts you open and everything, man. That's you can't have that. That's I love the mutilation.
That's how the magic ghosts escape.
That's how I always use the example of usually with abortion, but I would say like this is like people finding the Y incision offensive, like because that stands for Yahweh. And every time you do, cut a Y into a person, that kills a bunch of like souls somehow or something. So we got to make it so doctors have to like do S incisions now. And, a bunch of people are dying and everything. But that's what it feels like when they do this same kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It just feels like you just have a problem with a medical procedure that's been demonstrated to be effective. And and you're like, but we have a problem with it because our religion or whatever. And they're like, okay, so people are just gonna have to die now because you got a problem with the fucking medical procedure. Jesus.
Like get over yourself, man.
All right. Well, hey, thank y'all so much for hanging out. This is so much fun, and thank you, Ember, for coming on and hanging out. We'll have to do this more often.
Eventually we will get to Vlad.
Yes, we are going to do that because that is going to be fun. But I want to, we'll do it another time when you haven't had like, an hour and a half of sleep. Oh,
hi, Granny.
Oh, hey, cool. This Granny's here.
Cool. On X.
Oh,
I've been on the fence, like StreamYard only lets me broadcast to 3 locations at once. Of course, YouTube and Twitch. I haven't gotten much out of it, but occasionally a person drops by and does some of those special emojis that they have over on Twitch, which is kind of cool. So I just leave Twitch alone. But then that third option, I've been torn between Facebook and X because neither one really seems to do anything to move the needle. And I don't know.
I interact on Facebook too much, and then I feel like I'm annoying all of my friends too much, because I go live so often that I don't want to annoy. So I just do it on X.
How dare you producing content and shit?
Right? I just feel like again he's live again. That's like 4 times this week. This is ridiculous. I'm unfucking follow. Fuck your face, Brantley. Like that's what's I can see happening. But all right, y'all. Well, hey, thanks so much for hanging out, and and you should, let's see, go to adamandeve.com, like we were saying. You know, if you want to play with other things that are hanging out. Jesus Christ. I don't
Oh
know.
my.
Okay, I don't know. That was that was off the top of my head. Okay, I'm just saying. Um, and, but if you
It
go
is
to,
better than foreskins flying at your face, though.
yeah, I guess that was more on topic, but yeah, that's bit rough.
I mean, nobody needs that. Nobody needs random
Yeah.
bloody bits of genitals flying through the air.
Unless you're into that sort of thing. I don't, BDSM type stuff. But go to adamandeve.com, enter code word Brentley at checkout to get 50% off almost any one item, 6 free movies, 3 free gifts, and free shipping on the whole order. Just go to adamandeve.com, enter code word Brentley, that's Brently, and get your exclusive offer. It does come in discreet packaging. And if you want to become a patron, we do have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/punkapostate. And I'm putting stuff up there is, pretty often. It's all pre-recorded stuff or the lives that I have to take down for one reason or another. So it's a lot of extra stuff though. So, and if you want to just do a one-time payment, which is extremely helpful, and we will give you a shout out on the show. If you go to our Cash App, our cash tag is Punk Apostate, and you can give whatever you want, whenever you want. And it's, it really is a huge help. But, the main thing, though, is to stay logical, loving, skeptical, and compassionate. And we'll see you next time.